Have you ever done law enforcement?
You know,
have you
Brandon,
ever
I can field this one for you. I'm happy to take this. Thank you for that.
Why are they emasculated?
Have you ever had to use force and make a split-second decision?
Apparently, Piers, we're emasculated because we're not bootlickers for ICE agents who want to kill somebody.
When you can judge
apparently we're emasculated because we're not in support of six guys jumping on and murdering a nurse.
There's a use of force.
You're a real man, Brandon. Hey, Brandon, you're a real man.
In today's video, Tyler Cohen shuts down Brandon Tatum on Piers Morgan Uncensored as a heated showdown erupts over immigration enforcement, government transparency, and the fallout from a controversial ICE shooting that's shaking public trust. Tyler Cohen challenges the narrative head-on, pressing Brandon Tatum on accountability and the growing gap between official claims and what Americans are seeing. So let's dive in and watch how Tyler Cohen shuts down Brandon Tatum on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
So, Brian, you've been waiting very patiently. It's been interesting to watch the big rain back. You've watched Kristi Noem basically chucking Stephen Miller under a bus. Stephen Miller is the guy that actually tweeted about this guy being a potential assassin. It was him that fired up that narrative that he was a potential assassin, which was clearly completely ridiculous. Whatever your take on what we've all watched on these video clips, the idea that somehow he was planning to assassinate all those ICE officers is plainly absurd and offensive. What are we seeing here?
We're seeing from Stephen Miller, from Greg Bovino, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, the same thing, frankly, that we're seeing on this panel right here, which is this level of gaslighting and kind of narrative setting that, frankly, nobody believes. I mean, this idea. For the former ICE director, my co-panelist over here, that Alex Preddy, this VA nurse who was brandishing a cell phone, was somehow a threat that even after he had six full-grown men, like these grown-ass men on top of him, that he needed to be that the threat had to be eliminated by unloading his clip into him. I mean, you can say this and you can feel justified, and we'll have Officer Tatum over here back you up because there's nothing that Trump or any of these secret police or the Trump administration can do that will garner any pushback. But that right there is the perfect testament to why nobody believes what's happening here. It's because even these ardent right-wingers in this country, and certainly the vast majority of independents, I'm talking 3/4 of independents in this country, are listening to this gaslighting and recognizing that it's not just a lie they're being told, but it's utter contempt that's being displayed by these Trump administration officials for the American people. Say again?
Well, I would say, Brian, as well.
What did I say that was gaslighting?
I thought that
that this idea that Alex Preddy posed some threat where the response needed to be unloading his clip.
To be resolved.
And it's not going to be resolved because the reality is DHS is not going to investigate any of this. DHS isn't going to investigate anything Preddy's going to do. Just like DHS, just like DHS is not going to investigate Jonathan Ross because DHS doesn't investigate any of this stuff. So if the excuse is always going to be, oh, don't worry, we'll get to the bottom of this in some full investigation.
Then
there's not going to be a full investigation.
Should he be charged with murder
so we just have to listen to the
because he upsets
gaslighting being fed to us by Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Kristi Noem.
Can we talk about use of force
policy?
I
want to mention at this stage.
Convicted of murder?
Hang on. I want to mention at this stage. Look, I want to bring in the incident with Ilhan Omar because it's kind of connected to this.
Tyler Cohen's broader point lands because public trust in institutions drops fastest when officials appear to close ranks instead of open books. Federal data and independent reviews have repeatedly shown that when law enforcement agencies investigate themselves, the public overwhelmingly doubts the outcome, regardless of the facts. That credibility gap matters more than any single incident. When leaders default to force-first explanations without transparent timelines, body cam clarity, or outside review, it reinforces the sense that power protects itself, not people, and voters across the spectrum feel that erosion. There's also the legal standard most Americans intuitively understand. Use of force is supposed to match an immediate articulable threat. Supreme Court precedent like Graham versus Connor hinges on objective reasonableness, not worst-case speculation after the fact. When video evidence in past high-profile cases contradicted initial official narratives, it trained the public to be skeptical early. That skepticism isn't anti-law enforcement, it's a reaction to pattern recognition. Brian Tyler Cohen's side benefits from that context because accountability arguments grow stronger each time transparency lags behind force. Politically, this isn't just moral, it's strategic. Polling for years has shown majorities, including independents, support border security and law enforcement, but also want oversight and consequences for misconduct. Those views coexist. When rhetoric sounds dismissive of civilian harm, it alienates persuadable voters who might otherwise agree on enforcement goals. That's the lane Brian Tyler Cohen occupies. Not anti-security, but anti-blank check. The demand is simple. If authority is used in the public's name, then scrutiny in the public's name isn't optional. It's the price of legitimacy.
Now, Brandon, what has concerned me about this is that from Donald Trump, and I think you have intimated this too, there's an immediate position by people on the MAGA right that because you don't like Ilhan Omar, that she somehow has staged this, it's not real, it didn't happen the way people think it did, this guy was a plant, and so on. And again, it comes back to what I sense is a complete eradication of basic humanity. There ought to be parameters between left and right where we can just agree when something like that happens, we all say this is terrible and shouldn't be happening.
Piers, there's no jump to conclusion. I don't care about none of these people. They don't pay my bills. I don't have to say anything about Ilhan Omar. I don't really care about her. But the bottom line, and Donald Trump don't pay my bills either. But the bottom line is that I'm looking at this impartially. I don't know what anybody said. I saw the video, and it does not look consistent with someone trying to assault another person, which means I have never in my life seen a person get up, spray something out of syringe at someone's chest. It happened to be nothing, inert, and then she comes after him. You didn't see her back away from him. You didn't see her shy away from him. You didn't see any of that
Brandon,
nature.
you would
and
say,
the guy didn't even resist.
Brandon, you would say the complete opposite if that was a Republican congressman.
That's not true.
Brandon, is the guy going to jail just for fun?
Like that's not true.
Is the guy going to jail just for fun? Is that part of the show? I just want to hear a little bit more about this theory.
Listen,
no, please, just 1 second. There's just a question. I want to hear more about this theory. That guy.
I'm giving you the elements.
Is he going to jail for show? He's going to jail.
I'm giving you elements of why this looks strange to me.
Okay, so why do you think he's going to jail? Is it for show? Is he like Antifa? Is this part of like some? Is this the lizard people?
Listen, was there anything in the syringe? It was inert. There was nothing poisonous. There was no pepper spray. There was nothing in the syringe to
I'm
start
asking
with.
you why you think he's going to jail for this.
He sprays her with the syringe in the chest. She goes after him. If you're afraid of somebody spraying you with a chemical agent, you're not going to pursue them. He resisted not one bit. He goes to the ground. She says.
So you don't believe it, do you, Brandon? You don't believe it?
I don't think that this was. I think this was staged. I don't know if it was true or not.
Can I ask
think
a question here? Can I ask a question?
Okay.
What if Alex Preddy had sprayed a liquid onto this ICE officer? Would you have Brandon? Would you have said that there was no threat at all?
Murder.
It'd be aggravated assault.
And you would have supported executing him.
No,
and just like you would have supported.
No, that wouldn't have been justification. That wouldn't have been justification for the ICE agent to react. But merely holding a phone is justification to react.
Who said that it's justified for somebody to spray something? We're talking about a specific incident where a man had a gun. They had a reason to believe that he was armed and dangerous.
He had a gun in his holster. He was holding a phone. He was holding a phone.
Can we talk about masculinity for a second, Piers? I'd like to talk about masculinity for a second.
On him.
I would too. I would too.
Did he not have a gun on? Have you ever done law enforcement? Any one of you emasculated men on a thing? Have you ever done law enforcement?
You know, Brandon, I can field this one for you. I'm happy to take this. Thank you for that.
Why are they emasculated?
Have you ever had to use force and make a split-second decision?
Apparently, Piers, we're emasculated because we're not bootlickers for ICE agents who want to kill somebody.
Well, you can judge
apparently we're emasculated because we're not in support of six guys jumping on and murdering a nurse.
There's a use of force.
You're a real man, Brandon. Hey, Brandon, you're a real man.
What stands out in clashes like this isn't ideology, it's standards. When officials promise internal reviews after controversial uses of force, public confidence usually drops, not rises, because Justice Department civil rights probes historically take years and rarely end in charges. That gap between incident and consequence is why skepticism is now the default. Add in how often early law enforcement narratives get revised once video surfaces, and you get a credibility deficit that Tim Miller and Brian Tyler Cohen are clearly tapping into, whether critics like it or not. There's also the legal reality people forget in cable shouting matches. Objective reasonableness under Graham versus Connor depends on immediacy, proportionality, and what a reasonable officer perceives in that second, not political loyalty. Independent studies on police use of force show misidentification of objects happens under stress, but that's precisely why training, de-escalation, and clear visual confirmation are emphasized in modern policing standards. Pointing that out isn't anti-cop, it's pro-professionalism. Military and law enforcement experts alike stress that legitimacy is a force multiplier, and legitimacy collapses when accountability looks selective. Politically, this matters beyond one incident. Voters consistently tell pollsters they can support border enforcement and still demand guardrails. Those positions coexist in the real world, just not on loud panels. When rhetoric jumps straight to dismissal or conspiracy about victims or targets, it pushes moderates away and reinforces the belief that power answers only to itself. The through line Tim Miller and Brian Tyler Cohen lean into is simple. Authority without transparent limits stops looking like security and starts looking like impunity, and that perception is what erodes trust fastest.
You know, I'm not saying they're to blame, but I'm saying that part of what we're seeing here is something that never happened in the Obama years about this kind of issue of deporting illegal immigrants, because nobody cared. And my question for you is, all right, we can have Jimmy Kimmel blubbing on TV about it because he cares so much. Why didn't he care the same way when Obama was doing this? And did you care? And did you speak out about Obama's deportation record? Or do you accept that Obama pretty much shared Trump's view, which is actually, if you're in the country illegally, then you should probably be deported, because there are millions of people trying to become legally immigrants to the United States, and there are hundreds of millions who've come to the country over the last century who did it the right way.
Look, I can't speak to what my thoughts were during the Obama administration. I was in college, so I wasn't really paying that much attention to politics. But I would say in general, look, I am in favor of immigration. I think it's better for the economy. I also recognize that immigrants, you know, if we've heard so much about crime, illegal? Immigrants commit crime at lower rates than native-born Americans. So this isn't about stopping crime, because if this was about stopping crime, our law enforcement agencies would focus on the people who are actually committing it, certainly committing it at higher numbers, but they won't, because this is not about crime. That's just some flimsy pretext that people use to be able to justify this. Go ahead.
They're not always able to find people who are illegally in this country that commit crimes. When they have a crime committal stat, it's because they've been able to find the person and prosecute the person to some degree. People that are illegally in this country have no identity. They commit crimes with complete impunity. So
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. This idea that they have an identity.
Wait a minute.
Do you think illegal and legal immigration are the same?
Look, of course they're not the same. Of course they're not the same.
The
reality is that
do you accept both, or do you believe in one or the other?
But they all get treated the same.
Well, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Just for starters,
you don't know what they're the same.
If I could just say really quick two things on this point. Number one, right now they're deporting actually people that came the right way. They're reporting people that came here as asylees or refugees. and they're sending them back, even though they've been going through the legal process. Excuse me, can I just finish?
Seekers?
They are asylum seekers. They came across the border illegally. They showed up to a port of entry and they volunteered. They've been going to their checkups with ICE, waiting for their court date, and they're deporting those people. So that, excuse me, just really quick. So those aren't illegal immigrants that are being deported. They're people that have done the right thing. They're being deported. And lastly, can you just let me say one other thing?
Other than those people.
Can I say one other thing?
The other 20 million.
I just want to say one other thing before you respond. When you talk about illegal immigrant crime, I do have one pretty easy stat to point to. So far this year in Minnesota, illegal immigrants have killed 0 people. The ICE agents have killed 2.
What gets lost in arguments like this is actual data versus vibes. Multiple criminology studies, including analyses of Texas arrest records and national census-linked data, show undocumented immigrants are arrested and convicted at lower rates than native-born citizens. That doesn't mean zero crime. It means the crime wave frame is politically useful, not statistically dominant. Brian Tyler Cohen and Tim Miller's broader point lines up with that research. If public safety were the sole goal, policy focus would look very different than headline-grabbing raids. On the Obama comparison, context matters. His administration deported large numbers, but after 2011, DHS memos prioritized recent border crossers and serious criminal convictions, while creating DACA and expanding prosecutorial discretion. Today's fights center on people in active asylum proceedings or residents with work permits being swept up during enforcement surges. Legally, asylum seekers who present themselves and attend hearings are in a due process channel, not hiding in the shadows. Collapsing all of that into illegal equals criminal ignores how immigration law functions. Media outrage alone doesn't put people in the streets. Political science research shows protests spike when people feel institutions aren't responding through normal channels. Heavy enforcement paired with confusing messaging fuels that perception. There's also a basic economic angle. Immigrants, including undocumented workers, are overrepresented in agriculture, construction, and caregiving, sectors already facing labor shortages. Policies that treat every case as a threat can hurt local economies while doing little to address visa backlogs or court delays, which are the real system bottlenecks. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.